Good morning. We continue hopefully the last group of stories here. I was warned not to try to speak or to move even a finger. By Joseph L. Ryan, Supervisor, Foreign Division, Royal Typewriter Company, 51 Judson Place, Rockville Center, Long Island, New York. Several years ago, I was a witness in a lawsuit that caused me a great deal of mental strain and worry. After the case was over and I was returning home in the train, I had a sudden and violent physical collapse, heart trouble. I found it almost impossible to breathe. When I got home, the doctor gave me an injection. I wasn't in bed. I hadn't been able to get any further than the living room settee. When I regained consciousness, I saw that the parish priest was already there to give me final absolution. I saw the stunned grief on the faces of my family. I knew my number was up. Later I found out that the doctor had prepared my wife for the fact that I would probably be dead in less than 30 minutes. My heart was so weak. There comes a boat. I was warned not to try to speak or to even move a finger. Someone in a boat showed up. I had never been a saint, but I had learned one thing: not to argue with God. So I closed my eyes and said, "Thy will be done. If it has to come now, thy will be done." As soon as I gave in to that thought, I seemed to relax all over. My terror disappeared, and I asked myself quietly, what was the worst that could happen now? Well, the worst seemed to be a possible return of the spasms. With excruciating pains, then all would be over. I would go to meet my Maker and soon be at peace. I lay on that settee and waited for an hour, but the pains didn't return. Finally, I began to ask myself what I would do with my life if I didn't die now. I determined that I would exert every effort to regain my health. I would stop abusing myself with tension and worry and rebuild my strength. That was 4 years ago. I have rebuilt my strength to such a degree that even my doctor is amazed at the improvement my cardiograms show. I no longer worry. I have a new zest for life. But I can honestly say that if I hadn't faced the worst, my imminent death, and then tried to improve upon it, I don't believe I would be here today. If I hadn't accepted the worst, I believe I would have died from my own fear and panic. Mr. Ryan is alive today because he made use of the principle described in the magic formula. Face the worst that can happen. See page 11. The next story is I Am a Great Dismisser by Ordway, Chairman of the Board of Higher Education, New York, New York. Worry is a habit that I broke long ago. I believe that my habit of refraining from worry is due largely to 3 things. First, I am too busy to indulge in self-destroying anxiety. I have 3 main activities each one of which should be virtually a full-time job in itself. I lecture to a large group at Columbia University. I am also chairman of the Board of Higher Education of New York City. I also have charge of the Economic and Social Book Department of the publishing firm of Harper and Brothers. The insistent demands of these 3 tasks leave me no time to fret and stew and run around in circles. Second, I am a great dismisser. When I turn from one task to another, I dismiss all thoughts of the problems I had been thinking about previously. I find it stimulating and refreshing to turn from one activity to another. It rests me. It clears my mind. And third, I have had to school myself to dismiss all these problems from my mind when I close my office desk. They are always continuing. Each one always has a set of unresolved problems demanding my attention. If I carried these issues home with me each night and worried about them, I would destroy my health, and in addition, I would destroy all ability to cope with them. Ordway is a master of the 4 good working habits. Do you remember what they are? See page 194. And the next one. If I had not stopped worrying, I would have been in my grave long ago. By Connie, Mack, the grand old man of baseball. I have been in professional baseball for over 63 years. When I first started back in the 80s, I got no salary at all. We played on vacant lots, and stumbled over tin cans and discarded horse collars. When the game was over, we passed the hat. The pickings were pretty slim for me, especially since I was the main support of my widowed mother and my younger brothers and sisters. Sometimes the ball team would have to put on a strawberry supper or a clam bake to keep going. I have had plenty of reason to worry. I am the only baseball manager who ever finished in last place for 7 consecutive years. I am the only manager who ever lost 800 games in 8 years. After a series of defeats, I used to worry until I could hardly eat or sleep. But I stopped worrying 25 years ago. And I honestly believe that if I hadn't stopped worrying then, I would have been in my grave long ago. As I look back over my long life, I was born when Lincoln was president. I believe I was able to conquer worry by doing these things. Number 1, I saw how futile it was. I saw it was getting me nowhere and was threatening to wreck my career. Number 2, I saw it was going to ruin my health. Number 3, I kept myself so busy planning and working to win games in the future that I had no time to worry over games that were already lost. Number 4, I finally made it a rule never to call a player's attention to his mistakes until 24 hours after the game. In my early days, I used to dress and undress with the players. If the team had lost, I found it impossible to refrain from criticizing the players and from arguing with them bitterly over their defeats. I found this only increased my worries. Criticizing a player in front of the others did not make him want to cooperate. I really made him bitter. So since I couldn't be sure of controlling myself and my tongue immediately after a defeat, I wouldn't discuss the defeat with them until the next day. By that time, I had cooled off. The mistakes didn't loom so large, and I could talk things over calmly, and the men wouldn't get angry and try to defend themselves. Number 5. I tried to inspire players by building them up with praise instead of tearing them down with fault-finding. I tried to have a good word for everybody. Number 6. I found that I worried more when I was tired, so I spend 10 hours in bed every night, and I take a nap every afternoon. Even a 5-minute nap helps a lot. Number 7. I believe I have avoided worries and lengthened my life by continuing to be active. I am 85, and I am not going to retire until I begin telling the same stories over and over. When I start doing that, I'll know then that I am growing old. Connie Mack never read a book on how to stop worrying, so he made out his own rules. Why don't you make a list of the rules you have found helpful in the past and write them out here? Ways I have found helpful in overcoming worry. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. I'm going to read this last one, or I'm going to try to, but I cannot recall if I've added it before, but here we go. I got rid of stomach ulcers and worry by changing my job and my mental attitude. By Arden W. Sharp, Green Bay, Wisconsin. 5 years ago, I was worried, depressed, and sick. The doctor said I had stomach ulcers. They put me on a diet. I drank milk and ate eggs until I revolted at the sight of them. But I did not get well. Then one day I read an article about cancer. Oh, I imagined I had every symptom. I was not worried now. I was terrified. Naturally, this made my stomach ulcers flare up like a fire. The final blow came when the Army rejected me as physically unfit at 24. I was apparently a physical wreck when I should have been at the height of my physical powers. I was at the end of my rope. I couldn't see a ray of hope. In desperation, I tried to analyze how I had gotten myself into this terrible condition. Slowly, the truth began to dawn on me. 2 years previously, I had been happy and healthy in my work as a salesman. But wartime shortages had forced me to give up selling and take a job in a factory. I despised factory work, and to make matters worse, I was associating with a group of the most accomplished negative thinkers I had ever had the misfortune to meet. They were bitter about everything. Nothing was right. They constantly condemned the job and cursed the pay, the hours, the boss, and everything else. I realized that I had unconsciously absorbed their vindictive attitude. I slowly began to realize that my stomach ulcers were probably brought on by my own negative thoughts and bitter emotions. I then decided to go back to the work I liked, selling, and to associate with people who thought positive, constructive thoughts. This decision probably saved my life. I deliberately sought out friends and business associates who were progressive thinkers, happy, optimistic men free from worry and ulcers. As soon as I changed my emotions, I changed my stomach. Within a short time, I forgot that I had ever had ulcers. I soon found that you can catch health, happiness, and success from others just as easily as you can catch worries, bitterness, and failures. This is the most important lesson I have ever learned. I should have learned it long ago. I had heard about it and read about it dozens of times, but I had to learn it the hard way. I realize now what Jesus meant when he said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Well, that was the last story from the book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. I appreciate you listening. I hope you made it through the whole book with me. Give me a chance to read to you. This book has made a lot of difference, being that it has a different chapter for everybody. You're bound to be able to find something in there. We got that sun just about to crest over this edge here. We got, all the birds flew off. It's a nice day this morning. A little bit of traffic. I'm going to set it for a minute and see if we can catch the rest of that sun. Hope you can see all the pretty birds. I'll be starting on another book anytime. Thank you again for spending your time with me. I appreciate you.